There once was a couple. It was several decades ago, actually. They had grown up together. Her father was a jeweler, and her father had given him a job in his shop. And as they grew older, they discovered that they had fallen in love, and they married. Now, the young man had worked very hard to become a gemologist so that he could work in the jewelry shop, and he eventually, over time, bought up half of the business. And then he married his beautiful, wonderful wife. And when her father decided to retire, he gave her the other half of the business. So together our couple owned a beautiful jewelry store. And soon they decided to expand and expand, and they did it again. And over time they amassed a tidy fortune, and they bought a mansion. But the mansion gave them so much space that the table that they sat at in their dining room was 10 feet long. They never thought to take the leaves out because that would destroy the proportions of the room. Everything in the mansion was absolutely perfect. But they also grew apart. The lady also began to have heirs. A little bit. And they had their property fenced in, so no one could come in. And Thanksgiving came. They sat down at their 10-foot table, looked at each other, and they had to get each other's attention by waving napkins at each other and using megaphones practically to talk. So conversation lagged. And at one point in time, the wife looked over at the window, and smashed against the window was the face of a boy about 12. And of course, she's like, "What?" And of course, she yelled. I won't do that with the microphone. And the butler dropped the tureen full of soup. She said, "Get that ragamuffin away from our window. Throw him over the wall." Okay. And the butler left to take care of the young man. Well, they finished their dinner. Of course, they couldn't agree on whether or not the turkey was seasoned correctly, or whether or not the soup that they did get was too hot or too cold. They just decided they would be disagreeable that night. And when dinner was over, he took his snifter of brandy with him, a little extra, into the study where he could sit and read without having to see his wife. She, on the other hand, went up to her boudoir to do whatever she wanted to do, as long as it was away from him. Well, lunch had been served, or the turkey had been served earlier, about lunchtime. And he decided come supper, he was a little peckish, and he decided to go to the kitchen and make himself a turkey sandwich. And as he got toward the kitchen door, he heard voices inside. But it wasn't just the cook and the butler talking. There was a young voice. And he looked in the kitchen, and there sat the ragamuffin. He looked. They hadn't noticed him yet. And he watched. He didn't know he was there. As they talked to each other, and they told jokes, and they laughed, and they were having one great time. And he was standing in the door going, "Why does this happen in my kitchen and not in the rest of the house?" So he decided he'd come in and he would join them. And he did. He sat down, he made himself a turkey sandwich, and enjoyed it, and got involved with the conversation and telling jokes and stories. And it was a wonderful conversation until apparently someone else had heard the noise. and came charging into the kitchen going, "What is going on?" And when she saw the happy faces and she heard the conversation kind of stop, she decided to unbend a little. So she joined the group at the table. And pretty soon the conversation got rolling again. The jokes started again, the story started again, and everyone was laughing. And she felt better too, and even smiled and told a story of her own. And the man reached over and held his wife's hand. Now, when it was time for the young man to go home, they provided a car to take him home. And the wife, had run through the house gathering little things that the professional decorators had put out, like a nutcracker, a special ornament, some fruit and some oranges and nuts, and put them all in a stocking for him. And he was elated. He had never had Christmas. But besides saying that this was a thankful day, they told him to come back for Christmas. And he said he would, if they would tell him when Christmas was. Well, they kind of pulled his leg a little bit and said, "It's tomorrow." And so the car took him home, and the next day went back and got him, and they came back. And by the time they got there, the cook and the wife had been able to go out and buy real presents for this young man, including a suit of clothes. He'd never had new clothes either. And so the next night they celebrated Christmas, let him open up all of his presents, and they thought that was absolutely wonderful. They enjoyed themselves. They sang carols, and when it was time to go home, the husband said, "Well, we certainly hope you can come back for New Year's." "Well, when is New Year's?" "Well, it's tomorrow." And so he came back, and again they celebrated. This went on, and soon the young man learned that there's a space between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And there's a space between Christmas and New Year's. But he didn't care. He had made some new friends. Now the old couple opened their heart to him and didn't adopt him, but sponsored him in ways that he might not have had access to. And when they saw what a wonderful thing this was, they set up a trust fund for him. And then they endowed a foundation for other children in similar circumstances. And as the years went on, every time the young man was around at Christmas, he was sure to visit them. And they would sit down, and they had watched him grow from 12 years old to a college graduate at 22 and to a doctor at 32. And over that 20-year span, lots of people were able to take advantage of what was available to them as children. It was last Christmas that the man celebrated his last Christmas. But he was very happy. They sat around the kitchen table, the cook, the butler, the man, his wife, the young man, and his wife, who was visibly pregnant. And they had a glorious time. The man's heart was full as he sat with his full plate in front of him, and a tear trickled down his cheek and dropped into the stuffing. And as he ate that stuffing, he thought it was the best he'd ever had, because you see, the tear had seasoned it just